Hi everyone, this is Sudan Baraukar. Wish you all a very warm welcome. It's my privilege to welcome all the esteemed speakers for the panel discussion on unlocking the power of data with AI-based data intelligence. This is for the CXO Data Intelligence Summit 2022 organized by CXO TV. I'm Sudan Baraukar. I'm a global IT and innovation and digital transformation advisor. I come from the world of innovation and transformation, have been head of innovation at State Bank of India, as well as with Barclays, and have been in the US with IBM and GE. We will start with a quick introduction of the panel. And I would request all the panel members to introduce themselves, as well as give their designation. So we can start with Gerald.
Hello, everyone. Thanks, Sudin, for the warm welcome. I am Gerard Wilson. I head the Center of Excellence for the Adani Group. The Center of Excellence deals primarily with three verticals in Adani. One is the cloud infra DevOps. The second is the data, and third is SAP. So with the Center of Excellence, we give the strategic directions to the various business units in Adani, and also participate in the implementation of new technologies as and when it comes and required.
Great. So you're sitting on all the emerging tech and exponential technologies. That's great. So,
sort of.
Yeah, that's great. Fantastic. Thanks, Gerald. We'll move on to Sunil Soni.
Good afternoon, Sudhi, and thank you very much for allowing me this opportunity to be here. I have been working with Punjab National Bank, and I have been the CIO for a long time, besides being the CISO also. And now I have moved to a business role for the last 1 year and looking into the customer acquisition now.
Fantastic. So you're bridging the IT and business gaps, if ever they were.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Great stuff. We'll move on to Abhijit Bhattacharjee.
Hi all. Thanks for inviting me. Thanks for welcome, Sudin. Thanks, CXO, for inviting me. So I'm Abhijit. I am a CIO of Utkarsh Bank. Utkarsh is one of the small finance bank in India. We work in a very, very different market, different perspective. I head the technology and the transformation office over here. And we are doing a lot of activities on both in terms of technology as well as business as well as data, combining it together and trying to bring it across. We'll try to bring those views on the technology. Thanks, everybody.
Fantastic. Thanks, Abhijit. Yeah, we'll move on to Pramod Agarwal.
Hi, good afternoon, and welcome the opportunity to be in this discussion on AI and data, which is very close to my heart. I work with IBS FinTech, which is a corporate finance and treasury software provider for large enterprises. We help treasuries digitally transform themselves and become more strategic for a corporate purpose. And in that endeavor, clearly, the problem of finance and treasury is a problem of big data and AI, and which is to be handled in the most secure fashion. In my role, I define the product strategy and the operations for the company. So we are a Make in India startup. We have been in the business for over 10 years, and we are now expanding overseas with our product portfolio.
Yeah, so exciting times for you guys. Excellent. So let's dive into the questions. AI is now everywhere. It's on the cloud, it's on the hybrid IT, it's on the edge. How are we implementing and converging all this, especially from our infrastructure side, especially from our emerging tech perspective, maybe from a competency perspective? So we can do a round robin. We can start with Gerald.
AI, Sudin, is a very broad term which is used now. But if you see, this AI is caught up with the world. And even the rate of adoption of whether it is for a customer acquisition or prediction of a churn, on the customer side, it is slightly more advanced. And we can see about 56% up in AI adoption. Okay. But if you see as an industry as a whole, then there is a wide gap actually between what is actually adopted and what is the potential for it. So in one of the surveys which I was reading, the potential market of AI is about 10 to 15 trillion dollars. So that is a scale which we are thinking about. one of the factors probably it will help the world to adopt more is it has become easier and affordable now. And if you see in the space of innovations or the patents on AI, it has increased by 30 times between, let's say, the last 5 years. So that is the scale of concentrated AI, which is happening around the world. And then to accommodate this scale, what we are seeing is that people like the Googles, the Amazons, the Azures of the world, they're also scaling up or scaled enough to accommodate this growth. Okay, so that is where we are seeing the advancement coming in. One is patent side, other one is infrastructure side, and more smaller startups and companies coming into the foray, where they integrate multiple systems, come out with better and better models coming into place. So that is where I see the AI going in the future, Sudhir.
Yeah. So you still feel that the AI coverage needs to be more and the implementations need to be much more. Maybe y'all are still in some of the pilots. But yes, I think overall in the next couple of years and in the long term, there will be a lot of these AI-based implementations. Either you can use ML ops or AI ops and a lot of the other automation features related to that. That's great. Thanks, Charu. So coming to Sunil, banks, you come from a big bank. Even I come from a big bank. When I was head of innovation in State Bank in 2016 to 2018, I benchmarked our core banking systems at 24,000 transactions per second, 1.5 billion transactions a day, to cover 500 million plus customers and 700 million plus accounts. This is the most advanced, scalable, state-of-the-art, sophisticated core banking system in the world, developed in India by Indian technologists. So we have been in the forefront of digital transformation, as with other large banks like Punjab National Bank. So could you highlight how important is this digital transformation? How important is emerging technology like AI and low code, no code?
Very well. This is a wonderful question that you've asked, Sudhin. The challenges and issues, that we have as an organization, since you mentioned the word called large organization, or I may call as the organizations which are more than 100 years old. You see, the technology has emerged over a long period of time here. And the silos that we have are the major most issues where the data is today aggregated. And to have a clear view, essentially, there are 2-3 things which are necessarily required. In case if we have to aggregate the information or data, or if we have to have a comprehensive view, unless we have AI, the things may not be falling in place for the very simple reason, that the information that is lying, I may know only as much as is required because of my ownership on the data. Similarly, the other gentlemen across the organization may have only visibility of as much as the information is. But to have a comprehensive view, so first of all, we'll have to aggregate all these, obviating the anomalies, and then eventually look at AI to aggregate and present a comprehensive view. So as a big bank, or as a bank which has emerged over a long period of time, today the major most challenge to the organization in comparison to the new organizations which are starting afresh is to have an aggregated view and to obviate the kind of issues and challenges with regard to data ownerships and the visibility.
Fantastic. So we've been having enterprise data warehouses for a long time. I remember during my Barclays days, we were the first bank in the world to introduce our enterprise data warehouse. That we use the Teradata platform way back in 1992, right? So it's already, enterprise data warehouse is already a 30-year-old technology. So how are you further moving on to, let's say, data lakes and data? How are you able to address data in motion? Because a lot of the banks are now on, the digital banking platforms. And how are you able to, after having these platforms, able to, get a complete view of your customers? And just like State Bank, you all would be having millions of accounts and millions of customers. Yeah.
Oh, yes, the enormity of data, as you've mentioned, is pre-existing. And the challenge is that, as you've mentioned, the enterprise data warehouse is an old animal, which is almost about 30 years old. And also to see that the EDW or the enterprise-wide data warehouse was created to have information on the static data or purified data. But today the challenge is that the behaviors are changing, the customer preferences are changing, the avenues of consumption are changing. So with all these changes, essentially now we are expected to have an aggregation of information, which is not only structured within the organization, but also from outside the organization to have a
Yep.
comprehensive view. So that's the reason why probably we require a lake or data lake, which essentially aggregates the structured as well as the unstructured data. And what best technology other than AI and ML can help us, to create a comprehensive view on that.
Fantastic. Thanks, Sunil. Moving on to Abhijit. Today we're talking about, post-COVID. During COVID, the banks were the most successful in implementing contactless, digital, seamless worlds, right? Way ahead of any other industries. And we could even see during COVID that all the banks work perfectly well. All the microfinance companies work perfectly well, right? So post-COVID, how are you able to address the aspects of financial inclusion? How are you able to leverage all the digital infrastructure in the form of Aadhaar card and many other digital infrastructure components already in place? How are you able to, serve society from a microfinance perspective, bank perspective?
Yeah, fine. Thanks for giving a preamble. So we obviously work in a very different market. The market what Adani or you or Sunil is working, our market is very different. Our focus areas are very different. So hence the challenges are very different. But end of the day, the solutions have to be somewhat similar to what we are talking about. Now, when we go rural, I have a theory in mind. When you go rural, when you go touching so many people in the last mile, it becomes more than a banking problem. It becomes a banking plus a supply chain problem. Okay. So when you talk about internal and external data, what Sunil has rightly mentioned, it becomes something beyond. The type of the internal and external data goes very, very different. 4 years back, we never thought geo latitude, longitude could be information. Correct. Today it is my business driver. So you need to have a different lens in order to reach that particular stuff. Now that's the point of data. Now if you look into the entire data cycle, I have to ensure I capture the data, I have to ensure I store the data, I have to ensure I use the data, both either in terms of a streaming or in terms of getting the data back. So the balance of the way we have seen the data on the old EWS format, it is not only change in terms of technology, but also change in terms of the dynamics or the variations going forward. The focus, as a focus of the organization is microfinance. So hence we need to reach to the last mile. So we try to walk more towards the edge computing side rather than being from the internal side. So again, there's another layer coming on forth. And when we're hopeful when the 5Gs of the world will come, the things will obviously change.
So any specific implementations, Abhijit, across let's say eKYC or alternative credit decisioning models using AI and automation?
Yeah, I was about to come to that. So this is one part which is basically the structure or the data and the technologies around data. Second part is the data itself, the availability of the data. Today, the internet companies are so big because they are holding a set of data, which I don't have. If today my customer behavior, it does not depend on my RM goes to or my sales executive goes to and sit to a client, but it more goes to how he is accessing his mobile. So his behaviors and that information is not with me. Now, what has happened in last 5 years, and hats off to the government of India for that, he have made a lot of information centralized and a lot of information available. And those information is, starting from your personal information to a work information, to your KYC information, to your, if you are a small SME, then your corporate information. Now, all the pieces are coming up. I was hearing RBI governor in a forum few weeks back, and he was saying there was a world governor forum, and everybody was congratulating him, saying the UPI probably has created a world standard when everybody has to do a catch up. So, and that has happened because there is a lot of the Aadhaar itself, the data behind it. Now,
and in fact, just to add to UPI, the RBI and banks like SBI and Bank of Baroda and other banks also form the UPI.
Yeah, correct. We have recently started UPI Lite. We are one of the first SFBs to join into the UPI Lite to join the bandwagon. So, the perspective of this is now all this data point which is available, which is now our part and parcel of my acquisition strategy, my credit decisioning, my customer servicing, all three bases. And this is like our lifeline now, just like our blood.
Yeah, fantastic. Thank you, Abhijit. Let's move on to today we are seeing next generation digital platform transformation, right? We're looking at autonomous, automated, audited worlds, just as how e-com companies have changed the world, right? And everything is today automated and going to be autonomic, and everything is a lot of AI is being used, a lot of analytics is being used. From your perspective of approaching the fintech and using AI, especially if you're in the fintech technologies, then customers would look at to see some bleeding edge and cutting edge solutions. What are your best practices and implementations, and what is your overall roadmap on how to approach the next generation platforms?
So, Sudhin, great question, and enjoyed listening to all the participants. I think with respect to the AI and the cutting edge technologies, and especially as a software provider, we believe that we need to really think about where our customers want to go and what do they want to achieve with our platforms, right? And this, especially in the last 10 years, the other thing that has become paramount to software success is thinking of software as a platform. So where you are able to co-create and collaborate with the customers, with the partners in the larger ecosystem. So if we take examples, specifically in the area that I'm working on now in corporate finance and treasury, if you look at supply chain finance, it's a very complex problem, and it is reliant upon data from not what just the company has, but what the financial institutions have, what the vendors have. You have to really figure out a platform-centric way of where the different participants can securely and confidently collaborate in a trustworthy and transparent manner, that when the data is shared, on top of which certain meanings or decisions are taken by AI or human beings, that it is done in a way where the interest and incentives of each of the participants in the platform are preserved.
Yeah.
And that's where thinking about how do you create this platform where you can bring these parties together to be able to get access to the pools of data that each of these holds, and then be able to build intelligent features so you can actually drive that transformation. And I think this is where the software industry has changed over the last 25 years that I've been involved in, that the vendors, including Microsoft, if you will, they have become much more collaborative and ecosystem drivers rather than being standalone players in the market, right? The birth of the open source movement, and I think now open source is everywhere. So I think one thing that we constantly think about at IBS Fintech especially is how are we building these platform scale technologies where the different participants in the platform ecosystem can participate together. Some of the other areas that have become quite interesting in the AI and analytics is AI and analytics are not two separate things altogether, right? Because what's happening with the explosion of data is you really need AI to be able to help humans sort through all these piles of data and being able to present that summary, if you will, that the humans can then take an action on. And I think this term called augmented analytics is being floated around. But whatever you may want to call it, at the end of the day, it is about being able to make sense of the data in a more automated manner through the help of AI. And so there are various areas of AI. People talk about automated general intelligence, which will be maybe 10 years away from now. But even before the AGI arrives, I think there's a lot of value that you can derive today because there is a inherent comfort in this man-machine model of working together. And especially if you look at the younger generation, they are very comfortable working with the machines, right? And the burden is on the leaders to be able to provide that path where the trustworthy AI models are in place, where the humans can depend upon the judgment, augment the decision, and make the decision happen. And I think this is where, if you look at the field of AI itself, the concept of explainable AI, the concept of fair AI is becoming very prevalent.
Ethical AI.
AI. Because if you're a banker, if you want to make a loan decision, you want to be able to say that the old biases are not being continuing in the AI system. Because if you train the AI on a biased set of data, which was human-driven bias in many cases, and if you continue to make decisions which are now automated, but you can't even explain them, that's going to be challenging, and that's going to be detrimental to the progress of AI itself. And I think, therefore, working on explainable AI, fair, ethical AI systems will
Absolutely.
become more relevant if we have to drive the adoption of AI-led decision making or decision support systems for the human beings, which then become larger and larger scale.
Absolutely. In fact, I'm working on some of the ML ops platforms to help reduce the drift and bias.
Absolutely.
In fact, just reading some of the news emerging on this front in China, the authorities and regulators have now asked the fintechs to expose their algorithms and models to make sure that the position they are in to help society, to do financial inclusion, to do all the programs which the government feels fit, is being now evaluated and is being researched to make sure that AI is being used in the right way. Absolutely. Yeah.
So if I may just add, the
Yeah.
whole data protection initiative that the central government is taking in creating a
Sure.
legislative framework around this is going to be super important, because you want that responsible behavior from all the parties. That the data that is being available to make models and do AI-driven decision making is actually based on as much non-biased and non-personal or anonymized data as possible. And I think I cannot wait for the data protection bill, for example, to be
Sure.
finalized. So I think it's about doing the right behaviors and promoting the right behaviors in the ecosystem.
I think industries can also, come together. Like, for example, in 2017, I formed a, global bank chain alliance. I got, 30 plus banks and, 10 plus technology vendors together to evaluate technologies like blockchain, smart contracts, AI, and a few others. And we did collaborate, a very successful alliance. So I think that can be another model where a lot of the banks, fintechs, other organizations can collaborate and make sure that the model and, in collaboration with the regulators and authorities, make sure that society is being served in the most ethical manner.
Absolutely.
Yeah, thanks for that. Going back to Gerald. Gerald, you are the CIO corporate and group for such a big group like Adani Group, and that's a very large workforce. How are you addressing all these new latest and greatest or exponential technologies, emerging models? Like today, you're going to have these green hydrogen and blue hydrogen ecosystems. On the emerging tech, you're having ML ops, AI ops. You're having a lot of automation in the form of robotic process automation and intelligent process automation. So all this requires the reskilling of the workforce, upgradation of the workforce, making specialized competencies which are agile, at the same time working with the big challenges of a large organization, a large workforce, a large partner ecosystem. How are you, from an industry perspective, how are you addressing these challenges?
So as mentioned by you rightly, it is a challenge, Sudhin, to keep pace. So one is that on one side, there is a technology pace, and the other side, there is a business pace. In fact, I would say in our case, the business space is more than the technology space. That's how it happens here. So to keep up with that, one is, let's say, when the business grows, obviously your surrounding ecosystem grows, which when a workforce grows, then you have to scale up your systems to cater to that. Similarly, we cannot stand by and watch and just scale up. We'll have to find innovative ways to address that. Then these innovative ways come from applying how do we take out this data, how do we use it to make things more efficient. Okay, when you say more efficient, it can be both at an operational phase. It can be for example, it can be used in risk management. It can be used in the other technologies. When you say other technologies, so one is you have a structured data from your ERP systems. There, of course, we have your unstructured data from your cameras, your documents, and all those things. Apart from that, we have a different type of structured data coming out from all our systems. Let's say you talked about energy systems. Thus, the assets which generate that energy. For example, if we take a wind turbine or we take a solar panel, this is a huge deployment, hundreds and thousands of assets deployed across the country. So when you tend to collect data, you have to have efficient mechanisms of collection, transport, and then storage at some place. So all these actually pose different types of challenges where you bring in new technologies like edge computing, and then you take over the particular relevant data, put it into a cloud. So we have a partnership with Google, and we store everything on Google Cloud. So, and from once you store the data, then like Sunil mentioned about the services available on the hyperscaler. So you don't tend to reinvent the wheel of somebody again writing the code, writing the models, which are we use the ready-made models which are either coming from the hyperscaler or available. So it takes two things, Sunil. One, you use the services like Pramod mentioned, software as a service. Second, you build a team. So you build a team. It's always on the lookout for building and scaling up teams. For example, 3 years back, there was no cloud vertical assets. So now there is a cloud center of excellence team which is there.
Absolutely.
There is a AI and ML ops team which is there. So you keep looking out for talent and tie up with. We have tie-ups with the IITs and IIMs of the world to get and source the knowledge from them. So it is handled in multiple ways. Then there is no single bullet which can solve the issue of talent or scaling up technology and workforce.
No, and what you're doing is absolutely great by building up these competencies, is because I've seen that working in large organizations, very old banks and other technology provider organizations on both sides of the fence. I've been, I've seen that once we embark on our emerging tech journeys, on digital transformation journeys, that also increases the entire technical vitality of the workforce, right? So, considering that you all have such a large workforce, it'll be also very good to start on these emerging tech journeys, to start on these competencies. So the entire technical vitality of the organization also increases. That's great. Fantastic. Thank you. Moving on to Sunil. Sunil, we have seen the data explosion. It's on a massive scale. We've got structured data, unstructured data, hybrid data, synthetic data, data at rest, data in motion. In large banks that I've worked on, we've got more than 700 source systems, right? This could be credit card data, country data, branch data, GRC data, risk data, all that stuff. So how do we process these multiple data source systems, and how do we on the fly or in near real time or real time implement the data intelligence using AI and cloud?
You see, essentially, as you rightly said, there are various different formats or various different systems from where the information is pouring in. And in case if you would like to have a 360-degree view on whatever is happening within the organization, so it is not only the technology data, it is also the ops data, and it is also primarily with regard to your infosec and other data, which has to be married within an organization as big as ours. And essentially, while you look at the magnanimity of the information or data that is being managed, so orchestration becomes one of the big thing, which happens here.
Yeah.
And essentially, to adjoin the information, what you require is kind of ironing out the issues and challenges, and then eventually pouring in the information to such an extent where this is universally, unilaterally available. This is the role profiles, sans the kind of anomalies that it may create. So having had the positive information and the information which is cross-bred onto, or to have a 360-degree view within an organization, I think this is the way in which the data has to be pulled across and eventually provided to for all the stakeholders.
So what has changed, right? During COVID, we could see that it took nearly banks and all of us were involved, nearly 2 to 3 months to figure out with the authorities and regulators and the courts to figure out a moratorium for people, for borrowers who simply lost their livelihoods and could not simply pay the EMI, right? It took us 3 months, right? So how do we do that faster using the emerging tech and using maybe AI ops platforms, ML ops platforms, or maybe using faster data intelligence to react to a complex event and make it happen in a few days rather than a few months?
You see, essentially, as you rightly said, the size of the organization and the age of the organization, determines the kind of talent that you have. And as Gerald said, that they are kind of, that was not existent or not existent about 3 years back and existing today. Similarly, the model and methodology with which you do business, say, for example, from a waterfall model to a DevOps, is what is the transition which is required. And once you marry the ops with the technology, it becomes easier for you to have solutions which are tested faster, deployed even faster.
Absolutely.
So,
and now with the DevOps, you also have the ML ops. So you're also having data science. So you're having better informed data. Sorry to interrupt you, but I just wanted to make this point.
And that's perfectly fine.
The emergence
you
of
see,
data science is also, the right way to further enhance the DevOps with MLOps. Do you think that would help us
True.
proceed on in this regard?
Perfectly. I mean, the progression within the organizations or across the industries is this only as of today, because the enormity or the size of the information that you manage today, and also, to have an intelligent decision, what you require is definitely wedding the MLOps with the DevOps and also superimposed with an AIOps.
Absolutely. Thanks, Sunil. Abhijit, moving on to you. Today we are looking at a lot of data. We're looking at a lot of rules and regulations. We're looking at data privacy. At the same time, we have to process this data. We have to figure out the sales intelligence, the CRM, the market intelligence, customer acquisition, right? Very, very important. We have to keep that cost of customer acquisition low. Otherwise, it will be very high, and banks will not be able to make any money out of it, right? Ultimately, banks are commercial banks. How are you, merging this complex event disruption, the data into your CRM pipelines, into your market intelligence pipelines, into your customer acquisition pipelines?
Yeah, thanks. Interesting question. So, look, what has largely, if you look in again last 5 years, a lot of business logic and decisioning, which is earlier client server technologies were there, which the application used to manage. Now all this decisioning and business logic has moved to the data layer. Okay, so the way we look at internally, previously for everything we have three verticals, which one is a business, one is technology. So two vertical, one is a business, one is technology. Now for all our decisioning, there is a third vertical, which is the data. Okay, so any decision we do, either it's a business decision or technology decision, data is considered to be a third vertical. So that's given, and we have. I was earlier with RBL and leading their digital journeys, and now once I moved over here, so I realized it's a double D dose, which makes a life better. It's not a single D dose. So that's putting data on a framework. Now, if you look for a bank perspective, if you for a group like Adani, the things will be very, very different. For us, things are very different. If you look, we have around 4 types of data, and our data strategy and alignment goes basis these 4 types. Okay, one is my customer data. Okay, the customer data, which we what we do, the focus is, my top focus is my security and the accessibility, because that will create the CRM and so on and so forth. Second comes my transaction data. Now, transaction data, what I need on transaction data, I need to solve the problem of scalability. I need to solve the problem of creating online streaming or all this new stuff which is coming out on that, because the decisioning is the fraud checks and all this stuff depends on that. So measures, technology stacks and everything based on that. Third, you added up these two and add up the external data, with the point what Sunil was mentioning. Then the intelligence and analytics is come. And fourth, what also which is critical for us is to create the forensic. So the entire stuff coming into the place, we'll get into the technologies which help me to do the forensic. So we categorize all this, the data vertical, what you said, we categorize into these 4 sub buckets and utilize technologies coming for this sub bucket. Make sense?
Absolutely. Thanks, Abhijit.
Thank you.
Moving on to Pramod. Today we are seeing, digital worlds, contactless worlds, seamless worlds, automated worlds, autonomic worlds, self-audited worlds, right? AI is no longer rocket science. It's coming out everywhere. From my research on AI, the first AI system was built way back in 1913, 1914 by a company called Honeywell in the form of an autopilot. And we can see that same autopilot could take over the controls of the plane without the pilot's assistance and could fly that plane, right? So AI is old. Of course, now we have seen the new generation AI, right? We could see in the 90s that AI could, and coming from the IBM world, proud to say that our Deep Blue supercomputer could beat the then greatest chess champion, Gary Kasparov, right? One of the few players to cross a 2800 ELO rating, right? So AI now is becoming very specific, very specialized, and very, very helpful to society, right?
Absolutely.
The question is that, Pramod, from your perspective, at least from my perspective, the world wants innovation and transformation, and now they want the best of it, right? So can newer technologies like autonomic databases, graph databases, right? Some of the cloud innovations and transformations, cloud automation, can they help on this to help with this huge, massive data explosion? as well as to use the latest and greatest of AI and database and data science to help us, with the greatest of innovations that we can deliver of value to customers.
That's a pretty broad question, and I think something that I'd like to reflect upon. I started in the industry in late 90s, and I think that was the beginning of large-scale ERP systems, HR systems, then CRM came along. And in an interesting way, I think then the web came along and we created the problem of data, right? Because we digitized what we thought was possible to be digitized, right? And now we are entering a phase with, if you think of the way Google is working on translations of language to language, right? Now we are starting to understand that there is actually a possibility that we can create a digital replica of everything that we know, see, hear, do, correct? So a digital replica of everything is possible today, right? And now we are saying that even beyond digital replica, you can create virtual replicas where these worlds will be living in this metaverse virtual where you can create worlds that don't even exist, right? And then how do you play in those worlds? So I think what is happening today is, with what work I think this group of people have done over the last 30 years, we've created this possibility that a digital representation of everything is possible, right? And we are now looking for basically answers to how do we now serve in this world where everything has a digital replica, right? Whether it is a, so in an enterprise scenario, for example, when we today look at role of a finance and treasury officer, the finance and treasury officers today can possibly create this whole virtual world where every piece of financial data can be connected to its operating footprint very directly. Right? If you think of factories, if you think of material movement, if you think of worker movement, if you think of anything that's happening in the enterprise and how it connects to the financial movement, it's all possible to be connected today, right? And I think this is where the technology that you mentioned, whether it is graph databases, if you think of relational databases, before relational databases, there was something called hierarchical databases, because people in those times thought that the natural way to represent an object like an employee or a customer relationship is hierarchical, because that's the real world of data, right? But then because of the constraints on memory and the cost of processing data, you came up with relational databases, which had a terrific set of rules to reduce the cost of processing information. Now you're coming back to the graph databases because they are the more real life representation of the world. And that real life representation of the world can be processed in a very cheap way, thanks to the evolution in computing. And now it has come to the stage of utility computing, where you don't even have to bother about the computing, right? So I think in a way, all of these technologies and the evolution that has happened in the last 30 years is converging to a place where emergence of utility computing, emergence of, in fact, I would now call it utility scale AI, right? It's possible now that you can combine these two and create new values for the customers, right? And then you think about blockchain, right? Blockchain is nothing but you now are going beyond a trusted intermediary to a more digital intermediary, right? Now it's possible again because now we have understood the digital representation of almost everything that exists out there. We can create relationships with them, and because we can create relationships, we can create smart contracts. And now if you can create smart contracts, then you can also see how a autonomous transactional system like a bank ledger can be maintained without any other human intermediary. So this is a really fascinating evolution of technologies that have happened in 30 years. And I think the key to succeeding in this is, in my view, is trust and transparency. I think those are going to be the bedrocks in enabling even faster innovation, where given that now our new workforce is all digitally savvy, it'll accelerate that transformation even more. So the trust and transparency will lead that. Technology will evolve, it'll continue to evolve because we are creating the need of the technology, and it's evolving because we have even more workforce that's available to contribute to this. So I'm quite optimistic that the new value creation will happen. But I think as leaders, we'll have to focus on trust and transparency.
No, in fact, self-healing databases have been there since since at least more than 15 years back. And nowadays, database vendors are implementing those technologies. And I'm sure if them converge with, technologies like graph databases, I'm sure will be the next generation kind of databases with the merger of data science will definitely help us address a lot of this data processing that we need to do in our organizations. Great. Thanks you. Thanks, Pramod. So one broad question to all the panelists is about security and governance, risk and compliance, GRC audit. Very important in all organizations, big and small. I have seen from my experience working in State Bank and Barclays, from my experience that using emerging tech, using AI, using machine learning, using data science, in fact, has brought about much better governance, risk and compliance, right? We've also seen the amount of fraud in the entire Indian ecosystem that continues to be a problem. So how are you all able to, and starting with Gerald, how are you able to use AI for automation and data science to help improve overall governance, risk and compliance, which is applicable to all industries, be it banks or be it insurance companies or be it manufacturing or utility companies, right? This is a very, very important piece of it. Gerald, how are you looking at it? Can we do better? Can we implement adaptive security? Can we implement zero trust architecture? Can we use network and data sandboxes and overall improve our governance, risk and compliance using AI?
Yeah, so I'll divide this question into two parts, Sudhir.
Sure.
One is when you talk about risk and compliance, you talk about the threat. So how do we mitigate the risks due to a threat which is coming in? You take whether it is a simple identity which needs to be protected, or whether it is a complex data which needs to be protected. So now there are a set of what you call, you mentioned rightly, a set of zero trust mechanisms deployed, where a simple authentication is converted into two-factor authentication. So two-factor authentication provides an entry barrier and mitigates the threat of stealing or threat of taking away the data. From then on, you take what type of data is stored where, and then who are the potential threat actors. So when you talk about the data movement, the data protection, then you have the AI-enabled systems. You can the security vendors themselves have evolved into the space. Whether you take CrowdStrike or whether you take Defender, they deploy these AI-enabled mechanisms to detect a potential threat, to warn us, and take actions in time. So this is one part of entry and protection. The other part is when you talk about GRC and compliance. You have to have mechanisms of who is accessing what. So while we have the traditional ERP systems, which have controls in terms of roles, responsibility, now with a growing organization and with large number of entries, large number of roles, it is impossible to for each system to define rules and track. You have to have this AI mechanisms. We have to reach that. Still, I feel like how the security or the cyber partners have evolved into this place. GRC and compliance is the talk of the town now, and more and more partners are coming and demonstrating to us how it can be done and where we can take it. I would say that we have a long way to go in terms of automated or predictable compliance and GRC.
Yeah, but it's good to know that it's being taken up at the highest level, and there's a lot of focus on it, and definitely using AI and using adaptive security and using the greatest of cybersecurity transformations. Definitely, we can help secure the enterprise, help secure our customers. I think that's the need of the hour. Thank you, Gerald. So, a question to all the three bankers and the fintech guys, Sunil, Abhijit, and Pramod. In 2019, the entire fraud in the Indian ecosystem was a whopping 1,87,000 crores, about more than $20 billion. That is money lost by banks and customers, right? How can we address this serious problem where the hackers are getting smarter, right? A lot of the customers are falling prey to all these threats, right? What can we do, especially to protect our customers, to protect our bank mission critical infrastructure? I've heard of some banks also declaring their in banking infrastructure as mission critical, so that the seriousness and even the regulatory aspect can be well used to reduce these cyber attacks and the fraud. So quickly, if you all can, go one, in a round robin way, Sunil, Abhijit, and Pramod, how do we address this using AI and the and a lot of the new innovations in the cybersecurity. Sunil, you can start first.
So the problem has two facets now. One is with regard to the data within the organization, which is the jewel, and also the protection of the customer, who's also now looking at their own devices. So now, while the problem is broken into two segments, if you're looking at the kind of system and behavior, the threats can be envisaged in the form of external threat or internal threat. If I'm looking at the data within the organization, so the controls are not new. However, the only change in the factor is that instead of your own premise, it is going to be the cloud now. So that is going to be another change which is going to be brought about with regard to this. Secondly, as you said, with regard to the customers and their protection. So probably what we are looking at is the one and the foremost part is the education, where the customers are to be educated. Second is the anomalous behavior in the customer's profile, in case if they can be assessed, for which the AI comes to rescue, because we are going to have the expression of the customer across all platforms. So to unify them, because there are different data sets which are emerging, so to have a unified view, what we are trying to look at it is whether the customer is looking at the transaction at one channel or multiple channels in together or in succession. So those kind of anomalous behavior, or maybe the behavior at different times. So there are different security applications also which are there to control. However, to have a surmounting and a bigger picture, since there are different data sets, and to have a 360-degree view on the customer, the AI today comes into rescue by evaluating all these challenges, assimilating them, and bringing about a comprehensive view on this.
Thanks, Sunil. Abhijit and Pramod.
Yeah, I'll go first. So look, this is the problem statement has not changed. This problem statement was there since the inception of the technology. The point what Pramod has just said, we have this data problem we have created by making all that thing digitized. We have,
and I think it'll never change, considering that hackers are also becoming more smarter and using AI themselves. I think it'll never change.
So they also are using AI, correct?
Yeah.
So it's a cat and mouse game, and this cat and mouse game will remain same 100 years down the line till the time technologies are there. Okay. Only thing you need to be sure you are up to date, and that is what is important. Sunil said about internal and external. The another important point, this is my personal experience, and I've seen few patterns over there. A lot of fraud has happened by the ex-employees, so they are neither internal nor external. They probably right now external, but they are internal at point of time. So there are, you can do a lot of social engineering to get the data out, and I've seen quite a few things going over there. So it is becoming more and more focused. It is becoming more and more pinpointed to find out which particular use case can probably solve this problem. You have to look for pattern. You have to look for predictability. Now, whatever I'm saying now is all AI, correct? So it is not only how you do the setup. I'm sure any large organization have the basic building blocks ready to how to prevent a fraud, but how to interpret the data and how to get the meaning out of the data to get the predictability out is what lies the key. And that is what I think we are learning every day, and I think we're going to keep on learning in the days to come.
Sure. Thanks, Abhijit. And Pramod, RegTech is a space for fintechs to really, seize this opportunity and make sure that RegTech can address the GRC problems and a lot of the audit problems. What are some of the initiatives you're taking from your side or from an industry side to merge this RegTech to make sure that the fraud and cyber attacks are managed and we are always one step ahead of these hackers?
Yeah, before I comment on that, I want to make one quick comment that I think while the server-side computing and server-side security has improved a whole lot, I think there's a lot more work that is required on the edge side. Whether you look at mobile browsers, mobile device apps, I think even with respect to phishing, and my wife just got phishing attack a few days ago, and I think it's very easily preventable if we better understand the end user behavior on the edge. It's not going to be solved only on the back end. I think there is more work has to be done on the edge, on the how the users are using devices, and maybe have additional security protections through enhancements in the browsers to make this kind of very easy to prevent consumer level attacks go away. I think with respect to RegTech, GRC, I think there's a lot of AI that is getting created, which is sophisticated from the point of view of understanding the compliance and the evolving needs of the compliance. And if you go back just 5 years ago, auditing was a phenomena where you were only, for example, auditing 1%, 2%, 5% of the transactions because there was not enough manpower for no other reason. Today, with the help of automation and AI, you can potentially do 100% auditing, and therefore you can do 100% of your transactions to review them from a perspective of the compliance and the regulatory requirements. So AI is going to significantly change the game on auditing. It's going to not take away the auditors, but I think it's going to make the auditor's job much more meaningful by isolating those transactions that really seem fraudulent, because human creativity continue. We'll be creative about frauds. There was a movie by Leonardo DiCaprio called Catch Me If You Can, where they were scale check frauds over years and years. We will be creative, and we'll have to continue to build more safeguards to protect ourselves against those things. Yeah.
Absolutely. Thanks, Pramod. So thank you all panel members. Thank you, General Wilson, Sunil Soni, Abhijit Bhattacharjee, and Pramod Agrawal. This concludes our session on unlocking the power of data with AI-based data intelligence as part of the CXO Data Intelligence Summit 2022, organized by CXO TV. I take this opportunity to thank you all and also wish you all the very best on the great innovations and transformations that you all are doing. AI is going to be there, it's everywhere, and it's going to be continuing to expand. And let's use this opportunity and serve the community and the world. Yeah, thank you.
For more updates from CXO TV, please like and subscribe to our channel.